What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on First Take, they're going to be talking about, does Kevin Durant's absence take away from what Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors have been able to do? So let's see what they have to say about that.
Do you think KD's injury takes away from the Raptors' accomplishments in these finals?
No, I don't. And I'm somebody that picked the Warriors to win this series. Obviously, I was wrong because I had them in 6, and now they might get bounced out at 5, so there goes that prediction. But I will tell you that when you look at what the Raptors have done in this series, you can't take away from what you've seen. Kawhi Leonard clearly is a superstar in this league. There is no doubt about that. But when you consider the way Lowry has played, the way Van Vliet has played, the way Siakam has played, obviously you take away his three-point shooting because it's about at 18%. But everything else he's done has been stellar. When you look at Ibaka, who's come off the bench, 6 blocks one game, 20 points another, and the level of production that you've gotten from them, then when you see their efforts collectively, defensively, how focused they are, how they play together, Nick Nurse and the adjustments, choosing, electing to take Van Vliet and insert him into the starting lineup for the second half of both games 3 and 4. You understand, because of what happened in game 2 and how the Golden State Warriors ran roughshod over them at the beginning of that third quarter with that 18-0 run in game 2. To make that adjustment from Danny Green to Van Vliet, you see the adjustments Nick Nurse has made. You're reminded of the multitude of starting lineups he threw out there this past season, his willingness to take chances, make adjustments, the way they play together. And then last but not least, for them to leave the court after sweeping the Warriors in Golden State, no smiles, no celebration, locked in, focused, it tells you they're locked in. They know what's going to be required. They know it ain't over till it's over. Mentally, emotionally, and the way that they've played, you simply cannot say enough about how the Toronto Raptors have played thus far.
So I would say at face value, having Kevin Durant not play, it doesn't take anything away from what the Toronto Raptors have been doing, because they took care of business when they needed to take care of business. And as far as Pascal Siakam had huge games, Marcus Gasol had huge games, Van Vliet had huge games, Kawhi Leonard had huge games, which is to be expected. And as far as the Golden State Warriors, sure, Klay Thompson has been hurt, missed a game. Kevin Durant has been hurt, missed the whole series. Iguodala has been hurt, not 100%. Of course, all those are factors, but that's so far down the totem pole of making excuses and splitting hairs and getting technical that nobody wants to hear it, because everybody has had to deal with injuries. So it doesn't take away the fact that the Toronto Raptors are absolutely balling right now. They're balling. And if they win this series in 20 years, nobody's going to care about, oh, you guys won a championship, but, oh, look, Klay Thompson wasn't at 100%. Kevin Durant wasn't at 100%. And no one's going to care about that. All they're going to care about is that the Toronto Raptors won the championships, and nobody cares if the other guys were hurt. They weren't facing Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson. So nobody's going to care about that, because everybody has to deal with injuries, and nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Because if it was the other way around, I wouldn't feel sorry for the other team, and I'm sure the Golden State Warriors wouldn't feel sorry for the other team either, so it works both ways. But let's keep going.
Predicted the Raptors to win this series in 6 games. And
Feeling good about yourself?
Yeah, but of course, it takes away when KD's not playing, because, guys, I wouldn't have picked them if KD was playing in this series, and it's no knock against your Raptors. I think very highly of them. It's a commentary on what happened when KD joined the Warriors. He joined a 73-win team that had just been in back-to-back finals and had lost one in the last possession of the fourth quarter in Game 7 at home. And KD joined that team. So basically the message KD and the Warriors sent is they believed that the only way they could ensure themselves championships is to make the game non-competitive. They put together a roster so devastating that they reduced the NBA to a non-competitive league once teams played the Warriors.
So first off, Max, you're making it seem like the Golden State Warriors went and got all these free agents and they just made this super team from out of nowhere. They constructed it. No, what happened was with the Golden State Warriors, they just had excellent drafting, because the majority of the super team that you want to call them, they were all drafted. Steph was drafted. Klay was drafted. Draymond was drafted. All those guys were drafted. The only person who knew add-on was probably Kevin Durant. Well, obviously he was an add-on, was Kevin Durant and Boogie Cousins. Other than that, they're working with a homemade team. So stop making it seem like they just recruited all these guys to make this super team just to take over the league, for one. And for two, make sure you keep the same energy in 4 or 5 years when you talk about the Golden State Warriors if they didn't win this series. Make sure you bring up that, the Golden State Warriors, they didn't have Kevin Durant. Klay Thompson was hurt for a few games. Iguodala, he was hurt. Make sure in 4 or 5 years you keep that same energy like you do when you talk about 4 or 5 years ago when the Golden State Warriors beat LeBron James when his team wasn't at 100%. Because you love bringing up what happened 4 or 5 years ago. The only reason why the Golden State Warriors won is because LeBron James was playing by himself. He didn't have his supporting cast. Kevin Love was hurt, and all these other guys were hurt. So you make sure in the future you bring up, when you talk about Toronto Raptors won their first championship, if they do it, you make sure that you bring up, Klay Thompson was hurt. Kevin Durant wasn't playing. Iguodala was hurt. So you make sure you keep that same fire and you evenly distribute it to all teams that you talk about. So let's keep going.
Well, does it take away from? Well, of course, because you guys weren't going to beat the Warriors if KD was healthy. But he wasn't healthy. And we knew that going into the series.
Exactly, Max. Exactly. Do I think that the Golden State Warriors would have beat the Toronto Raptors had they had a healthy Kevin Durant, had they had a healthy Klay Thompson? Of course I do. Of course I do. But that's all part of it. That's all part of the game. You may have hurt players. Some players may get suspended. Whatever the situation is, no one cares about that. The fact is the Toronto Raptors are winning right now. And do I think they would have lost if Kevin Durant was playing? Yeah, I do. But that's not a factor we can talk about right now. That's not anything we can talk about right now. So let's keep going.
And I'll tell you something else, which is important about your Kawhi Leonard. KD, with all the finals MVPs and people like Stephen A. Smith saying he's the best player in the world, the reason he can put up the numbers he does is, first of all, he's an all-time great, obviously. And second of all, you can't double KD. You cannot leave Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to double KD. What are you? That's a suicide mission. You can't do it. And so...
But wait a minute. So the Toronto Raptors have shown in this series that you can't double team or triple team Kawhi Leonard. Do you know why? It's because Pascal Siakam is going to drop those buckets. Marc Gasol is going to drop those buckets. Van Fleet is going to drop those buckets. So you can't necessarily you can't double team or triple team Kawhi Leonard either. So make sure you distribute that same energy and the same logic to the Toronto Raptors as you do for the Golden State Warriors. You want to talk about you can't double Kevin Durant or triple team Kevin Durant because he'll kick out to Klay or he'll kick out to Curry. The same thing applies to Kawhi Leonard. Pascal Siakam stepped it up. Lowry, he didn't really step it up. He's playing average. Marc Gasol stepped it up. Van Fleet stepped it up. So you make sure you apply your same logic to everybody throughout the years and through this series. Max Kellerman, don't cherry pick. So let's keep going.
AD is facing single coverage and getting all these points, and offense is what he does. Kawhi Leonard just gave you in the finals, in a pivotal game 4, 36-14 with 4 steals and no turnovers, and he faces 2 guys plus minimum every time he touches the ball. So I'm hoping KD plays tonight because I want to see the KD-Kawhi matchup one-on-one. But understand, once he comes back, the Warriors are a better team than you guys. They have too much talent. But you know what? Even if he does come back, you stake the Raptors to a 3-1 lead,